Let's start with Sakiri's basic attack. She can hold it to enter eat mode, and you can eat one enemy. You can't eat all enemies, only some enemies depending on their strength. You'll have to test out who it works out and who it doesn't. Then we have her E skill. If you tap it, it's gonna group enemies in a small area, and if you hold it, it's gonna make them fly into the air for a short duration. Then we have her ult, which spawns Kiroumaru from the air and does damage and CCs them for a short amount of time so they can't move. It also increases the team's attack based on Sakiri's base attack. Then we have a support skill. When you swap into her, so it just does a little bit of damage. Then we have a first passive, which is gonna increase scorch damage taken by up to 100% when you Esper cycle with her. Then we have the second passive, which decreases the enemy's defense by 10% when it uses her E or her R, her ultimate. Let's get into her gearing, which is gonna be the best weapon for Sakiri. It's gonna be the signature for her, Good Boy's Grand Adventure, which increases her charge efficiency so you can use ult more often. It also increases the team attack after we cast our ulti, which is really good for buffing. Team attack is also increased by 6% if enemies are controlled by an ultimate effect. Then we have her setup. We are gonna be using Speedy Hedgehog on her, and this is the module setup you can see on the screen. We're gonna be using as many different free pieces as we can because she has a buff from her free piece that increases her incantation damage. For the substats, you're gonna want double crit, you're gonna want cycle intensity and universal damage. Those are gonna be the 4 substats you're gonna want on her. Now let's get into her awakenings. The first awakening is gonna be that she extends the immovable effect from Feast of Gluttony for 6 seconds. That is her ultimate. The next is gonna be that she deals extra damage whenever you use ult to airborne enemies that has been trapped in your E skill, up to 600% attack. Third one is gonna increase Devour Whole and Feast of Gluttony damage by 6% for every enemy defeated within the next 15 seconds for up to 60%. Then the fourth one is gonna increase the team's attack by an additional 30% for 20 seconds, does not include Sakiri. Then we have the fifth one, which resets the ultimate energy and cooldown whenever you uses her E skill, which is really good. They have to be airborne though. Then you have Kiroumaru, which is gonna allow you to enter eating mode and eat up to 3 enemies at once instead of only eating 1, and they have different cooldown timers. The best one is gonna be the A4 option, then it's gonna be the A5 option in my opinion for the gluttony reset, and then it's gonna be either A6 or A1 depending on the stage if you can eat the enemies or not. The extra inflicted airborne is really good. Then we have A2 and then A3 at last. The resonance effect is gonna be +1 to all levels at 3, and it's gonna give her more damage at 6, so nothing crazy there. Then we also have her bond items. The best bond items for Sakiri and the most efficient bond wise is gonna be her Fever Dream. If you wanna do it fast, it's gonna be 200 points. And then we have the Crave Bites at 100 points, which is gonna be a bit more font efficient. If you don't care about being font efficient, you can buy the bunny box for 20k fonts that gives 400 points. Then we have her team comps and her rotation. There isn't really much to say here. You're always gonna press R whenever it's up for the buff, and you always press E when you need to group the enemies if it works. Otherwise, her team comp is very simple. She only really wants Daffodil to Scorch cycle for her passive if you've unlocked them. If you haven't, then she can basically fit into any team. She doesn't really care what team she is in. She can buff all of them and she can group in all of the teams, so you can use her wherever you want to. That is gonna be everything for the Sakiri guide. Hope to see you next time.